Morning, everyone.
Morning.
Do we have Lee Tucker?
Let's see her.
Okay, Nicole? Nicole English?
Is Melanie covering for Nicole, or is
Can you hear me?
No, Nicole's here somewhere.
Yeah, we can
oh,
hear
there
her.
she is. Okay.
Mike, do you know if Lee is joining us?
This is Lee.
Oh, hi, Lee.
Hey.
Okay, Mike, whenever you're ready.
Okay. Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Monday, April 5th, Board of Control. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Yes. Good morning. Calling the roll for the April 5th Board of Control meeting. It is 11:02. Dale Miller.
Here.
Nan Baker.
Here.
Jim Boyle serving as an alternate for Purnell Jones.
Present.
Mike Chambers serving as an alternate for Ermin Budish.
Here?
Lee Tucker serving as an alternate for the fiscal officer.
Here.
Nicole English serving as an alternate for Mike Dever.
Here.
Lenora Lockett.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. At this time, I'm going to make a motion to approve the March 29th minutes. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second. This is Lee.
Miller.
Seconded by, I believe, Councilman Miller. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, the minutes are approved. At this time, we are going to call for public comment. If there's any public comment, feel free to speak at this time. Okay, there's no public comment. Moving on to contracts and awards.
First item, BC 2021-155, Department of Public Works submitting an amendment to a contract with Shermer Construction LLC for the Bridge Box Beam Replacement Program, Part 2, for Chagrin River Road, Bridge number 03-00, over Willie Creek, Village of Moreland Hills, for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $23,344.02, recommending to accept construction as complete and in accordance with plans and specifications, requesting authority for the county treasurer to release the escrow account in accordance with Ohio Revised Code Section 153.63.
Nicole, before you go, I don't know if it's Melissa, but if you're not speaking, please put your phone or your computer on mute. Thank you.
Nicole English with Public Works. So this is a final closeout for our construction project for the Chagrin River Road Bridge 0300. It's a slight increase, and I sent response to questions on the specific items, but mainly it's final quantities, and then there was a couple missing items in the plans that had to be done.
Okay, thank you, Nicole. Are there any questions from the board on this item? Seeing none, then I will make a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second. Miller.
Seconded by Councilman Miller. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Item approved. Next item.
Next item, BC 2021-156, Department of Public Works, submitting an amendment to a contract with Infotech Incorporated for 10 APIA standard software licenses for construction, administration, and inspection services for the period June 17th, 2019 through June 16th, 2021, to expand the scope of services for an additional 5 licenses effective March 16th, 2021, to extend the time period to June 16th, 2022, and for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $31,000.05.
Nicole English again with Public Works. This is a software that our construction department uses. It interfaces with ODOT. It's for tracking the work that goes on in the field and then invoicing. So we had 10 licenses. They are interested in 5 more, which actually we had written into the contract started on March 16th, which is why the effective date is March 16th. The company did deposit those to us, even though we had not executed the agreement, but we have not paid for them at this point until this gets passed. We're also extending the contract 1 year. When we first set it up, it was kind of a trial to see if it was working and if our staff was going to see the benefit of the program, and it definitely has, and that's why we're expanding it now to all users out in the construction field. So this is 80% road and bridge because it's mainly used on road and bridge projects, and 20% sanitary because there is some sanitary work that they use this for.
Okay, thank you, Nicole. Are there any questions from the board on this item? Okay, seeing none, then I will make a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second. Boyle.
Seconded by Mr. Boyle. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Item approved. Next item.
Next item, BC 2021-157, Department of Development, submitting an RFP exemption on various requisitions which will result in award recommendations to various providers in the total amount not to exceed $250,000 for foreclosure prevention and real property tax counseling services for Cuyahoga County homeowners for the period April 1st, 2021 through September 30th, 2021 on requisition 6102 to Breaking Chains Incorporated in the amount not to exceed $25,000, on requisition 6103 to CHN Housing Partners in the amount not to exceed $30,000, on requisition 6104 to Community Housing Solutions in the amount not to exceed $50,000, on requisition 6105 to Home Repair Resource Center in the amount not to exceed $25,000, on requisition 6106 to Legal Aid Society of Cleveland in the amount not to exceed $45,000, on requisition 6108 to Empowering and Strengthening Ohio's People in the amount not to exceed $75,000, and recommending awards and requesting authority to prepare contracts with said providers in connection with said RFP exemption.
Good morning, Sarah Parks Jackson with the Department of Development. We are requesting an RFP exemption on these agreements. These 6 counseling agencies were previously selected to provide financial counseling services through a formal RFP process in 2019. Their contracts as amended were expired on March 31st, 2021. Due to our ongoing issues and challenges with the loss and procurement system over the past year, it's just not practical for us to do a new formal RFP process in time to make the awards by April 1st. So considering the homeowners are in need of these counseling services with the ongoing impact of COVID and rental issues and other issues that we know that the community is facing, we are asking that that we have a 6-month contract with each agency at the same funding level as their most recent contracts. A formal RFP process will commence and so that we can have the counseling service effectively start on October 1st, 2021.
Okay, Sarah, thank you. Any questions from the board on this item?
Yes, this is Dale, and I have 2 questions. And the first question is whether these contracts comprise all of the effort that Cuyahoga County is making regarding foreclosure prevention and counseling, or whether there are other programs in addition to these.
Mr. Miller, the counseling agencies are also involved in our mortgage assistance program, where they provide counseling services. The rental assistance program that is administered by CHN in some cases gets references from these other agencies directly to the rental assistance program. So they have also received some counseling on budgeting and other items that may be of concern to the homeowner or the renter.
The second question is whether these 6 contracts are able to meet the need that's out there in the community for foreclosure prevention and counseling services, or is there unmet need?
I believe that these agencies can meet the need along with the funding that we have provided to 3 agencies who are also on this list for mortgage assistance. So the 3 agencies that are involved in the mortgage assistance also provide counseling as well as part of the mortgage assistance.
Thanks very much.
Okay, are there any further questions on this item?
Just one, Mike, if I can.
Yeah, Sure.
And actually, I guess I'm going to ask you, Mike, what do you think of the challenges that we've had with the loss and procurement system and that we had to go around it in order to get this done to provide the services? And I guess along with that, do you think that we will be prepared to manage it by October 1st as planned?
I will tell you this, that a lot of departments are using it much better than other departments. And we're still trying to reach out some of the departments. Actually, there was a bit of a training session today with development, but we're still trying to reach out to some of the departments that might be having some difficulty and teaming them up with some peers to kind of help them out. So I think we have some departments that have a lot more volume that are up and running and doing a lot more. And we have some of the smaller, I wouldn't say smaller, but some of the departments, maybe the volume's not there, still have some challenges, but we're getting there. I'm seeing some good improvement.
Okay, good to know. Just wanted to check in. Thanks.
Sure. Any other questions from the board? Okay, hearing none then, I'm going to make a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second, Miller.
Seconded by Councilman Miller. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, item approved. Next item.
Thank you.
Next item, BC 2021-158, Department of Human Resources, submitting an amendment to a contract with Imix Technology Incorporated for technical support and software maintenance of Chronos time clocks for the period February 1st, 2015 through March 29th, 2021, to extend the time period to March 29th, 2022, and for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $18,484.11.
Good morning, Pat Smock on behalf of the Department of Human Resource. This contract extends the technical support agreement with the vendor that provides the Chronos time clock service. The county has over 1,500 employees in 24/7 operations who utilize these time clocks, obviously multiple punches each shift. This request was approved by the Technical Advisory Committee to TAC as they work very closely with IT on the clock maintenance. Most importantly, this should be the final agreement with this firm as the new timekeeping system, the workforce management system through Infor, does include new time clocks. And we appreciate the board's consideration of this request.
Thank you, Pat. Are there any questions from the board on this item?
Just one question, Mike.
Yes, please.
So this is taking it to March 29th, 2022. Payroll is scheduled to begin in January with the WFM. That's looking a little questionable now as to whether or not we're going to meet that timeline. So what are your thoughts if that needs to be extended perhaps to the second quarter of 2022?
Councilwoman, thank you for your question. We have dealt with this vendor in the past. They are not particularly receptive to less than a 1-year contract, which is understandable. We have, however, in the past done a 6-month contract with them. So those were our 2 options. We did the 1-year contract in this case, as you mentioned, to go through March of 2022. If there is an issue, we'd go back with the vendor and talk about a shorter term. But in the past, they've pushed hard for a 1-year contract. They have on one occasion been receptive to a 6-month contract as well. That's what we look to do the shortest term we could do starting in March.
Okay, let's hope that that this is the last of the
Yes,
time.
ma'am. Agreed.
Thank you.
Sure. Any final questions from the board? Seeing none, then I'm going to make a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second, Miller.
Seconded by Councilman Miller. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, item approved. Next item.
Next item, BC 2021-159, Department of Public Safety and Justice Services on behalf of the Sheriff's Department, submitting an amendment to an agreement with Chagrin Valley Dispatch Council for countywide criminal justice data sharing system services for the period March 1st, 2017 through February 28, 2022, to expand the scope of services to build an interface between the record management system for the City of Lakewood and the Criminal Justice and Information Sharing Warehouse, effective April 5th, 2021, and for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $27,500.
Good morning. This is Mary Beth Vaughn from Public Safety, and also on the call is Sergeant Devlin from the Sheriff's Department. The purpose of this amendment is to allow data to be extracted from the Lakewood Police Department's record management system and to import it into the county's data warehouse.
Okay, Mary Beth, thank you. Are there any questions from the board on this item?
Mike?
Yes.
Oh, go ahead, Dale. I'm sorry.
My question is, what kind of uses would be made of the data that's imported from Lakewood into our system?
Sergeant Devlin, could you please answer that?
Yes, good morning, Sergeant Devlin over at the Cuyahoga County Sheriff's Department. Thank you for your question. Yes, the data that is shared into the data warehouse, okay, is made available to all law enforcement agencies that participate in the data warehouse, which at this point is like 98% of all agencies in Cuyahoga County. Okay, what will be is other RMS reports and other data will be available to all law enforcement agencies to be able to look up various reports, peoples, and types of incidents and crimes through the data warehouse.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Boyle, did you have a question, sir?
Yeah, Sergeant, you answered some of it. Are there, when I saw it was just Lakewood, are the other 58 or whatever communities and other police departments, are they all already contracting to be in this data service sharing process?
That is correct. Of all the agencies in the county, there's 3 small municipalities that currently use the state RMS system.
Okay.
Besides that, Cleveland and Lakewood use their own RMS system, and everybody else in the county either uses Sundance or TAC. And we have signed MOUs with all those other agencies, and they are all on board and participating in the data warehouse.
All right, excellent. And what type, I mean, are we talking like open warrants or like prior records, so that, for example, if a police officer in
we're talking records, not
Bay
warrants.
Village. Okay,
for
so
example,
it's just prior records. Okay.
Correct.
Okay. Excellent. Thank you.
Okay, any final questions from the board on this item? Seeing none, I'm going to make a motion to approve then. Do I have a second?
Second, Boyle.
Seconded by Mr. Boyle. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed?
Thank you.
Item approved. Next item.
Thank you.
Next item, BC 2021-160, Department of Public Safety and Justice Services, submitting an amendment to a contract with AT&T Corporation for network connectivity services for the Next Generation 911 system for the period July 31st, 2019 through July 30th, 2024, to expand the scope of services to add and upgrade 911 circuits effective April 5th, 2021, and for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $38,952.
Good morning. This is Mary Beth Vaughn again, and also on the call is Alex Pelham, the Director of Public Safety. And the purpose of this amendment is to add an additional circuit to be used by the East Cleveland PSAP as they take over their dispatching services, and also to upgrade the Cleveland data circuit to a redundant circuit pair. And these are all related to the county's 911 system.
Okay, Mary Beth, thank you. Are there any questions from the board on this item? Seeing none, then I will make a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second, Miller. And I do
Seconded by,
have a late question, if I may.
yes, you may, please.
The question is, how much money do we currently have in the 911 Government Assistance Fund?
Councilman Miller, I'm actually out on vacation today, so when I get back to the office tomorrow, I will pull up that information and send it over to you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I've made the motion. We do have a second. I'm then going to call the roll. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Item approved. Next item.
Thank you.
Next item, BC 2021-161, Sheriff's Department recommending to amend board approval number BC 2021-71 dated February 16th, 2021, which approved an award on a purchase order to the Metro Health System in the amount not to exceed $250,000 for reimbursement of litigation and claims expenses for jail operations for the period January 1st, 2021 through December 31st, 2021, for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $250,000.
Good morning. This is Laura Sims from the Sheriff's Office. Also on the call should be Greg Huth from the Legal Department to answer questions as well. This is we originally had a a purchase order that was approved earlier this year. We've already expended more than half of that current purchase order on the litigation expenses that are required for deductibles on a current policy that we have with the Metro system. And we anticipate that we're going to have additional claims in. We don't really have any way of knowing how much those claims are going to be because they come in, after the fact. So our best estimate is to add the additional $250,000 to the current purchase order so that we will be able to continue to pay the litigation expenses as they come in.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions on this item?
Yes, this is Dale. And am I correct that these expenses are for claims that are coming in under a policy that was in effect, but has been superseded by a new arrangement?
Is that legal? Greg, is that something that you can respond to, please?
And Mr. Chairman, to the councilman, we are in the process of replacing the policy, or I should say Metro is in the process of replacing the policy. That would have a tail coverage that would start covering these, but I don't think it's in effect yet.
So the policy under which these claims are being accumulated is still in effect at this time, is that correct?
Yes, Mr. Chairman of the council, that's correct, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Are there other questions from the board on this item?
Yes, I have a question, Chair.
Yes.
So in the explanation of our questions that we asked, it says that the county is responsible for out-of-pocket litigation costs for its employees. What type of out-of-pocket expenses are those?
Mr. Chairman, to the councilman, this is covering the deductible. It's not just any other expense that's not covered by the policy. That makes sense? It's just like, when a litigator has to bring in an expert or something, for example.
Okay. Does it cover like travel expenses, food expenses? I mean, how far out?
No, Councilman, no, it wouldn't cover things like that. And we work just with local firms so that there shouldn't be any travel involved.
All right. And if I may continue, the $250,000 that was approved back in February, and we're asking now for another $250,000 on top of that. That means that's a $500,000 ask within the last couple of months. And we, according to the answer, have used up most of that first 250 and anticipate more. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, that's correct. Except, Councilwoman, if we do not expend all of the funds, because again, this is our best estimate, those funds would be returned to the general fund at the end of the year.
Okay. Based on asking for a $250,000, do you anticipate that we would be? There must be some kind of projection as to what's needed? And do you anticipate more to be asked?
Well, hopefully, no, the last time that we submitted the original purchase order, 21,158, at that time, when we submitted it, because we had one for 2020 that we completely expended. We put in for another one for 2021, and we got hit with, like I said, enough that covered or that expended half of that PO. And while we were processing that PO, we had said at that time we expected to come back again. At this time, I'm not anticipating having to come back for additional funds once this is approved.
All right. And if I may ask our law director, Huth, you said we were in the planning stages with Metro Health. Is this something that you'll be discussing?
Councilman, actually, yes, we're going to have to be coming into council to request an increase in our appropriation for the county's insurance overall. So that would be part of that process, yes.
And Director Huth, has this taken you by surprise at all that we are coming back for a second time within a very short period of time? That 500,000 is now on the table for added expenses?
No, Councilman, it really doesn't. When the way the insurance market works, no.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Chair.
Sure. Any final questions from the board?
Yes, I have a final question. Could the law director remind me as to why Cuyahoga County rather than the Metro system is responsible for these legal expenses?
Sure, I'm turning to the councilman. This is that time period when the nurses were county employees. So the policy was purchased by Metro, but then we're insured under that policy.
So that goes to that the question that I asked earlier. I thought that this was a policy that no longer affected us, and we were simply dealing with past claims. But when you answered my question earlier today, you didn't say that, and you said that this policy is still in force as of this day.
It is, Councilman, because of when the claim or the incident related to the claim occurred. But the new policy that we're working with Metro on would have what's called tail coverage in it. So it would cover incidences for a period of years prior to when the policy was actually put into place. The new policy was put into place.
So let me rephrase my question as to what would be the last date that an event could have occurred that would require coverage under this policy?
Councilman, I need somebody from the sheriff's side to say when the employees were no longer ours. I don't recall what that date is when we shifted the employees over to being Metro employees.
And Councilman, I don't have that information off the top of my head. That's something I would have to look up and get back to you.
Okay, please check that out and let me know. So,
Okay.
Chair, if I may follow up. So at the point when we realize when the employees became Metros and not ours, then this will no longer be needed, this coverage, or it depends on negotiations of what we do with them?
It's my understanding that once the employees are no longer ours, then they would be covered through the Metro policy.
Right.
But I'm going to try to go a little bit further, but there are certain sections in our agreement with Metro where we pay some of that, I believe. And that's part of the discussion that we have to have about how our insurance costs are going up generally.
Okay. Well, I'd be interested to know when you get to that point, how this is managed. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay. No final questions from the board? I don't see any. Therefore, I'm going to make a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second, Boyle.
Seconded by Mr. Boyle. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Thank you.
Item approved. Next item, please.
Next item, BC 2021-162, Sheriff's Department submitting an amendment to a contract with Guardian Alarm Company for monitoring services on alarm systems located in various county buildings for the period January 1st, 2019 through December 31st, 2020, to extend the time period to December 31st, 2021, and for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $3,000.
Laura Sims for the Sheriff's Department. This is a contract with Guardian Alarms for alarm monitoring services in a variety of the buildings throughout the county. And we would like to extend till the end of the year for additional time and funds to continue the service that is required.
Okay, thank you, Laura. Are there questions from the board on this item?
Just a question again to you, Mike. Again, this is late because of functional issues with Infor system. Is that, do you believe that's been overcome now? Is that anything to be concerned about next time going out? Will we be able to get Guardian Alarm Company on time?
Yeah, I mean, as I'm sure you heard from Jack previously, we've had a bunch of items that were stuck. We had a major break in them. They've been moving forward. I don't know necessarily the status exactly of this particular one, but as far as any conversion issues, this is a one-time deal. The fix is in our development right now, and it will be put into production once we test it. So there will be no conversion issues as we are experiencing them, right now this year. So like I said, I don't know the intimate details on this particular item, but I do know overall we've made great strides.
Okay. All right. Good to hear that. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions in this item from the board? Okay, hearing none then, I'm going to make a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second, Boyle.
Seconded by Miss Nicole English. I believe she got you on that one. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item approved. Next item.
Next item, BC 2021-163, Department of Health and Human Services, Community Initiatives Division, Office of Early Childhood, submitting an amendment to a contract with Child Care Resource Center of Cuyahoga County Incorporated, doing business as Starting Point, for management, administration, and implementation of various support services for the Universal Pre-Kindergarten Program for the period January 1st, 2019 through July 31st, 2021, to expand the scope of services to include marketing and outreach services for the Universal Pre-Kindergarten Program and for the implementation of the Child Plus Management Information System effective March 1st, 2021, and for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $102,725.
Good morning. This is Shauna Rorman with the Office of Early Childhood. Also from our office, Marcos Cortez is on the line. So this contract funds Starting Point, which is our lead agency for the Universal Pre-Kindergarten Program. They provide the on-the-ground delivery of that program. Starting in August of 2021, for the new program year, we will be switching to a new data management system for UPK called Child Plus. So the funds in this amendment cover the startup costs of that switch, including licenses and training. And then the amendment also includes $10,000 for a marketing campaign to support enrollment in the UPK program, which has been down pretty drastically due to the pandemic.
Okay, thank you, Shauna. Are there questions from the board on this item?
I have a question on it.
Yeah.
So this is replacing what we have been using for how many years?
Since the program began.
And so what is that, 5 years?
Like since 2007, I believe, so 14 years.
14 years. So in those 14 years, you're finding that, and what's the acronym COPA, what is that?
Councilwoman, 1 second.
That for 14 years?
I'm sorry, I'm blanking on the name. It's a planning and assessment software. I'm sorry, I will look that up for you.
Okay. And you find that the Child Plus is a better data management system?
Councilwoman, yes. So we have been using COPA, as you mentioned, since 2007. And the Child Plus system is a system that is used nationally by Head Start grantees. We have 2 major Head Start grantees in our area that are part of UPK. And so they have been using both data systems for several years and doing double data entry. They approached us to about switching to Child Plus, and given their experience with both programs, they've let us know that the Child Plus system is a much better and easier to use system. So this will not only help sort of just with functionality, but also reduce the amount of data entry that those programs are doing.
Okay, and you mentioned here Starting Point will maintain the data system. Is Starting Point maintaining the COPA system right now?
Councilwoman, that's correct. That's part of the contract that's included in the contract.
Okay, and so Starting Point remains?
Correct.
And do you have the data from since 2007? What is it about the data that you're going to enhance that you're not getting from COPA right now?
Councilwoman, so we have been collecting enrollment and capacity information since the program began. So that will remain the same. There are a number of things that we have started collecting, including information about family engagement activities, which the Child Plus system will allow us. It's just a little more flexible in the way that we can customize the modules to collect that information. COPA has allowed us to collect that information, but in a sort of clunky way, and the reports that we're generating aren't as good as they could be. And the Child Plus system will allow us to, with these customizable modules, include some additional functionality, such as processing scholarships electronically as opposed to on paper, just kind of helping streamline the back office operations a bit more than COPA does.
Okay, and I see that this begins March 1st, 30 days ago, and ends July 31st. So that's like a 5-month contract, and we're adding 102,000 more. So this is a more expensive way of collecting data. And what will you do after the 5 months passes?
The amount that's included in this amendment is for the startup. So purchasing, these are the upfront costs, purchasing licenses and the training. I believe that the systems are fairly comparable in their yearly cost, the annual cost. So just as the licenses for the COPA system have been included in our regular contract with Starting Point for the UPK program in the past, Child Plus will replace that line item that COPA has occupied moving forward.
Okay, when you come back to us for August 1st, 2021, is there a large cost difference between the 2 programs? The upfront costs will no longer be needed. What do you see in continuing this program as far as what you're getting for what we're paying more for?
That's correct. The ongoing costs will be comparable with Child Plus compared to what COPA was. I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but I can send that to you.
But you don't look at this being a larger cost than what we were paying over the since 2007.
That's correct. We believe it to be comparable, yes.
Okay, thank you for the explanation. I appreciate it.
Sure.
Are there any additional questions from the board on this item? Seeing none, then I will make a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
I'll second. Miller.
Seconded by Councilman Miller. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Item approved. Next item.
Next item, BC 2021-164, Department of Health and Human Services, Community Initiatives Division, Office of Homeless Services, recommending an award on requisition 3324 and enter into a contract with the Salvation Army in the amount not to exceed $250,000 for supportive services for homeless men in the Pickup Assessment Sheltering Service Transitional Housing Program for the period January 1st, 2021 through December 31st, 2021.
Good morning, Melissa Sturak with the Office of Homeless Services, recommending an award for a contract with Salvation Army for the Pickup Assessment Sheltering Service, or PASS program. The PASS program is intended to prepare and place homeless men into permanent housing. It provides temporary housing, rapid rehousing assistance, and recovery support services to homeless men, serving 75 men at any given time, and an average of 150 to 200 men annually. The primary goals of the project are to provide basic temporary housing and safety net services for 75 homeless men, to link clients with permanent housing, and lastly, to support clients in accessing earned income, recovery supports, and stable incomes. This contract is late. There were minor issues regarding insurance that took time to work through. And in addition to that, the CARES Act funding resources has been overwhelmingly burdensome to our providers in the COC, which unfortunately at times has resulted in a slow response in gathering necessary documentation. OHS staff has been in contact with the COC provider and put processes in place to reduce the likelihood of this occurring in the future.
Okay, thank you, Melissa. Are there any questions from the board on this item?
One question, Chair.
Please.
So you mentioned that this was slowed down because of the CARES Act funding, but this is being paid for by the HHS levy funds. How did, are there CARES Act involved in this, or is it all levy funds?
Councilwoman Baker, very good question. So the project is currently being funded through grant awards through HUD. Levy funds are being leveraged significantly for this resource. So this contract is specifically for levy. However, this particular entity has received CARES funding, which has led to additional burden on all of the providers as they're working through the resources.
So this particular $250,000 does not come from CARES at all?
Correct.
And that's because it just doesn't qualify. It doesn't, you would have done this anyway.
Correct. Correct, Councilwoman. This is normally funded through levy.
Got it. Thank you.
Any additional questions from the board on this item? Mr.
Hey,
Boyle?
Mike, this is Boyle. Hey, Melissa, so I see that in the notes that there was, did the insurance change? Because I see, I mean, we have an original contract and at least 2 amendments. What insurance aspects changed, or is that one of the? I think you mentioned that as one of the reasons this was late.
That is correct. We did have some issues with the professional liability insurance. If I may, I'd like to have Aaron Reardon with OHS give additional comments to that.
Okay, thank you.
Call. Sure.
Okay. Sorry, having some camera issues. So there actually was a little bit of a change when this was originally funded through HUD. There were some lower insurance requirements for this version. Professional liability was added, and so we kind of went back and forth a little bit and determined that professional liability wasn't really required given the scope of services, and so that took a little bit of negotiation. And that's a recent addition. That professional liability has been added to these contracts, but for the most part, we've been able to determine that it hasn't really been applicable. So they've been able to kind of petition to have that taken out.
So does that come from the law department places that, or is at least
Correct,
at the outset is placing that? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. All right. I don't know if Greg is still on it, but I know that we have a risk manager in place now, and I assume that they're kind of looking at the entire county inventory of contracts, because it sounds like, Ms. Reardon, on this situation, whatever the holdup was on the liability, it was ultimately determined that it didn't need to be amended. Is that accurate?
That's correct. Yes.
Yeah, so it sounds like you guys spent some time in a dialogue between you and the lawyers and ultimately coming to the conclusion that the dialogue probably didn't need to take place at all. All right, fair enough.
Okay, thank you. At this time, I'm going to make a motion to approve this item. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second. Oh, go ahead, Nan, I'm sorry.
Okay, I'm
Seconded by Councilwoman Baker. Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
sorry.
Aye.
Opposed? Item approved. The next item, please.
Next item, BC 2021-165, Department of Health and Human Services, Community Initiatives Division, Office of Homeless Services, submitting an amendment to a contract with Westside Catholic Shelter, fiscal agent, for the provision of identification, documentation, crisis collaborative program services for the period March 1st, 2018 through February 28th, 2021, to extend the time period to August 31st, 2021, and for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $85,000.
Melissa Surak, again with the Office of Homeless Services, requesting approval of a contract with Westside Catholic Center. Westside Catholic Center acts as the fiscal agent on behalf of the Identification Crisis Collaborative, or ID Crisis Collaborative. This collaborative assists low-income and disabled persons to obtain identification documents that are necessary to access benefits, housing, travel, and employment. The primary goals of the project are to understand the current and changing requirements for obtaining personal identification records, assist individuals and families who are challenged by disability, mobility, income, and bureaucracy to obtain birth certificates and social security cards, and lastly, to provide coordination of efforts among service agencies and systems serving this population of clients to expedite and support the process of getting an ID. This program has struggled with access to IDs throughout the pandemic. This amendment allows the ID Collaborative to seamlessly continue services over the next 6 months. The RFP needed to be created, thus the additional 6 months will allow adequate time to draft and execute the RFP process while ensuring these services continue to the homeless community. OHS has worked on drafting the RFP with DCAP and should be ready for release in the near future. Once the award is made, the contract will begin 9/1/2021.
Okay, thank you, Melissa. Are there any questions from the board on this item?
Just one question, if I may.
Please.
Just curious, so the services that we want to give those that are in need, they can't receive them unless we initiate some type of identification document? How does that work? What is it that we need to know above and beyond that they are in need of services that we need to create an ID for them?
So this program provides directly the funding sources that provide the birth certificates, IDs, or social security cards. And this collaborative forms a coordinated response as a network within the continuum where they can work together to ensure that there is no duplication of services staying in the shelter or PSH and in the homeless community could thus receive the identification. So Westside Catholic is just the fiscal conduit, and this ensures that the resources are available for those individuals to actually receive the IDs, whereas they might not have had the resources to do so.
Okay, I see. I appreciate that explanation. Thank you.
Any final questions from the board? Seeing none, then I will make a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second, Miller.
Seconded by Councilman Miller. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Item approved. Next item.
Okay, moving on to exemptions, item BC 2021-166, Department of Public Safety and Justice Services, recommending an alternative procurement process, which will result in payments to various municipalities in Cuyahoga County in the total amount not to exceed $50,000 for reimbursement of eligible backfill and overtime expenses in connection with the Rescue Task Force Training Project for the period April 5th, 2021 through June 30th, 2023.
Good morning, Mary Beth Vaughn from Public Safety, and also on the call is Alex Pelham, the Director of Public Safety. Emergency Management has been working with the local police and fire departments to design and conduct a comprehensive rescue task force training program for local responders. This program is modeled after tactics used by medics working in military combat zones. RTF, as it's called, is a unit of personnel that delivers triage to victims in a warm zone of an active shooter or mass casualty event while under the protection of law enforcement. Currently, the program has 8 instructors who work full-time as local police officers or fire personnel. The municipalities have been covering the overtime costs associated with these trainers conducting the training. Unfortunately, it's become cost prohibitive and it's unsustainable. So public safety is requesting to reimburse municipalities for overtime backfill expenses incurred by conducting the training, and we're looking to model it after the process that we use for reimbursing grant-funded overtime and backfill. The goal is to have 5 train-the-trainer courses over the course of 2 years, which would result in 120 new instructors. The process that we're asking to employ, and this is the basis of the alternate procurement, is that after the training is completed, the communities would identify the eligible expenses, the overtime backfill wages, PERS and Medicare, submit an application to our office along with the payroll records. We would review and verify the information, create a rec and purchase order in Lawson. Then the PO would appear on the Board of Control agenda either weekly or monthly, depending on the dollar amount. Once the PO is approved, then public safety would process a reimbursement for the community. And as I've mentioned, this is the process we use for the grants, and it's proven to be very successful, and it dramatically decreased the amount of time it took to reimburse communities.
Thank you, Mary Beth. Are there any questions from our board on this item?
Yes, this is Dale, and my question is that this sounds like the kind of thing that we could get state or federal grant funding for. Have we looked into that?
Councilman Miller. Go ahead. You want me to
Thank you, Alex.
Yeah, Councilman Miller, this is Alex Pelham, Director of Public Safety. We have looked into grant funding, so it is not currently eligible under the State Homeland Grant Program, which we receive as a pass-through through the state. And unfortunately, we have not been what's known as a UASI, or an Urban Area Security Initiative, grant recipient since 2017 because of some formulas and that have not been in our favor on a federal side. So we continue to look for this and grant funding streams. The initial RTF ballistic gear for the fire departments throughout the county was funded off of, I believe it was 2016 Urban Area Security Initiative funding. But like I said, we've not gotten that since 2017. It no fault to us or Mary Beth and the team. It's just a federal formula, and it's not eligible for the state homeland side. So we continue to look for avenues, but right now this is the avenue we're looking at. I hope that answers what you were asking for.
Yes, it does. Thank you very much.
Any further questions from the board? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to make a motion to approve. Do I have a second, please?
Second, Miller.
Seconded by Councilman Miller. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Item approved. Moving
Thank
on to, thank you. Moving on to today's consent agenda.
Yes, moving on to consent items number BC 2021-167 through 170.
Board members, will you please take a moment, and if you have any questions, feel free to speak out on any item. Be happy to give more time if anyone needs it.
One question, Chair.
Please, yes.
On 169, I'm just curious that we're extending this program an entire year from 12/31/2020 to 12/31/2021, and we're now in April. Why is it, how is it, I guess, can we extend a program for an entire year and not need more funding?
Councilwoman, this is Laura Sims from the Sheriff's Office. So because of COVID last year, we had, with the Protective Services Division, There was layoffs that happened due to COVID and the furlough, and consequently, you can't do any new hiring while we have people who are laid off. So while we anticipated to use these funds last year, none of them were expended. And so since we didn't use it last year, we're hoping to be able to use it this year instead.
Okay. Any further questions on today's consent agenda items?
If I may share, so that
Yeah, please.
explanation, thanks. That explanation is just a delay. You delayed funding from one year to the next. Is that what I heard?
Yes, like I said, we were unable to expend them last year because we had no hiring going on. And so this year, like I said, it's for new hires that come on to get their OPATA certifications. And so this year, you know, they're short-staffed, and we're going to be doing some additional hiring, and then we'll be able to use this training for those hires this year that we would have used for last year. So yes, everything's
Thank
delayed.
you. I
this year.
appreciate it.
Okay. Last call for any other items?
Yes, this is Dale, and I have a follow-up on that same item as to what kind of new employees would be the people that would receive this training?
So this is specifically for the building security staff for countywide. And so when we've often had difficulties hiring, qualified staff, generally require that they already have their Ohio Peace Officer Training Certification, which is required for them to hold a firearm before they even come on board. And in order to be able to open up the pool of candidates, we offered this program so that they can get their OPATA training and the certification for their firearm on the job as well. And so that's who the candidates would be for new security officers, new to the county, just starting out. So we ensure that they're properly trained before day one on the job.
Okay, thanks. That's helpful.
All right. At this time, then I'm going to make a motion to approve today's consent agenda items as noted and listed. Do I have a second, please?
Second, Miller.
Seconded by Councilman Miller. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Item approved. Moving on to, I guess we have public comment at this time. If there's anyone from the public that wishes to speak, now is the time. Okay, no public comment. I'm going to make a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Lee Tucker. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? We're adjourned. Happy homecoming day here. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a good week.
Thank you.